Hey friends, your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy GM Prep. In this weekly show, we often go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master to prepare for our game. In this case, I am going to, what am I going to do? Today, we are going to continue my series of videos in which I am running Blades in the Dark. I'm not actually running during the show, but I'm going to talk about what my game has been like and get my head around what I need to do in order to run a fun game later today for my Sunday group. So yeah, last week was my first full real session of Blades in the Dark, and it went very well. Some interesting things that happened. First of all, I ran with 6 players. I had my full contingent of players, and that was fine. I thought it was going to be a real problem. And it was fine, right? I had no problems. People, the whole, like, there are D&D like things that I have to let go of, like initiative, right? There's no initiative. And it's important for me to make sure that everybody gets a chance to jump in. And I think they did for the most part. Like, I can't be sure because it's like things that I don't know what I don't know. But I think that worked out. And I never felt like, oh man, I really wish I had initiative. Right. And instead people just kind of jumped in. So that worked well. The whole way that the story moved worked well. Like the flow of the story and how things came about and what occurred, that all worked really well. There was a fair bit of, it was a fair bit of like more session 0 stuff happened. We had 2 players who weren't in the first session. So we introduced them, but they had gone and made their characters during offline so that they came in with hot characters ready to go. But then there was a lot about the lair that we still had to do. And there was a fair number of questions about the crew that we needed to answer. And it reinforced for me that, like, this is a complicated game. Right? That for a story-focused game, there's just a lot of stuff going on, more so than I'm comfortable with for a storytelling game. It's definitely more than any of the Powered by the Apocalypse games I've played. It's certainly more than I've done when I've run Fate, in either Fate or Fate Accelerated or Fate Condensed. It's definitely got more going on because it has these like character sheets, because it's got these crew sheets, layers, and like expansion. It's a big, rich game, and that I was unexpected. It was, I did not expect that when I first started it, and that has continued to occur. Like I continually get more surprised by how complex things are. The good news is my players are really into it, and they have their books and they're checking this stuff out. So one of the times, so there's a statement that they make in this book, and many times I've had people who are familiar with Blades bring this statement to me and say, make sure that this is true. And that statement is that the players should play their characters like they're driving a stolen car. What they failed to mention is that the GM is in the trunk of that car, getting battered around back and forth as the car is zipping through the streets. And that's a little bit how I feel. Right? I feel a little bit, I often use the metaphor of I feel like Indiana Jones on the back of the truck with a whip getting dragged through the street, right? And I feel like that a lot in my D&D games. But boy, do I really feel it now, right? And I don't, it's not that I feel like a lack of control, because I don't, I'm not a control freak. I like the story to go off in different directions. But there are many times, particularly with the mechanics of the games, where the players are talking among themselves about how the mechanics work, and they're not even talking to me. And I'm like, I hope they figure this out, because I sure as hell don't know what I'm doing, right? So it's fine. But boy, like that's, it's definitely a different spot for me, because like I've been playing so much D&D and I'm very familiar with the system and I'm very comfortable running it. And now I'm in a system where I'm totally not comfortable running it. And I'm sure we're missing stuff, right? Because all of us are new to it. So I'm sure we're missing stuff. Are we having a good time? Yes. I'm really enjoying the story. I'm really enjoying the characters. A lot of that is really cool. And we'll get into some details about what's going on in the game. But I'm definitely enjoying it, right? And I do feel like I'm in the trunk of the car getting battered around while the cars are driving around, But, the story is one we're going to... So let's take a look. I have been using my campaign template mostly to keep track of stuff. I have been, filling in NPCs. We got lots of NPCs already, considering we've only had like one real session. And lots of different stuff that's going on. I'll kind of talk about it. So I wanted to start off in media res, they recommend that you do this in the book. I started off. And so it was like, okay, they'd already just left talking to, what's his name? Bezos Boz. By the way, I want to thank all of the commenters on YouTube last week for getting together and deciding to do a campaign about how I misspelled, who is it? The lamp blacks. Everybody wanted to remind me that it's lamp black, not lamp back. And I think some people were pissed off about Bezos Boz and whatnot. Whatever, right? But I thought that was funny. It's like everybody in the world wanted to tell me lamp black, lamp black, lamp black. I'm like, okay, I get it, man. Read other people's comments, right? Before you post your own. So they left Bezos Boz. They went out to the street. We cut to them. They had already left. They're already on their way out, and a bunch of red sash cutthroats jumped them, right? And immediately the red sashes are like, "See, you were just hanging out with those the lamp blacks, yeah. You were just hanging out with the lamp blacks, and we don't like that." And I created a clock. So the party was like, well, there's one jackass noble guy, and we want to focus on him. And it's a bunch of like cutthroats, right? Hired cutthroats. And so I created a countdown clock so that they could break the morale of this group without like having to actually get into a fight, right? And they did. They succeeded. And they succeeded by like remarking about the dude's sexual prowess, right? Referring to him. I think they referred to like, hey, weren't you known as like Limpy back in school? And he's like, and everyone laughed. And, so they managed to break up the whole situation. But in doing so, they had the complication of they created an enemy with this guy and his family, right? That like, this is a noble dude. And they created they ended up creating a problem with that guy and his whole family, right? And who knows if that ever comes up. But, it was kind of a neat thing. So it was a good opportunity for us to get used to doing roles and me making sure that like they chose the approach that they wanted to take, what a complication looked like. I love doing deals with the devil, right? I do a lot of deals with the devil. I try to find a deal with the devil in every scene because I think it's neat. The interesting thing about a deal with the devil is that whatever the deal is, it happens. You can't circumvent the devilish deal, right? Like a thing will become true, but they get a bonus to the roll to succeed if not. And so that's kind of, that's kind of it was kind of a fun way to go. They did learn some secrets and clues. They learned that the red sashes are hiring like crazy. They learned that many trained red sash sword people have connections to nobility. Yep. They moved their war chest. They did learn that. And so a lot of it was the heist. So this was one, like they had that scene and then it was like, okay, let's go to our headquarters. And we hadn't done anything about their headquarters yet. Again, big pile of mechanics around your headquarters. And they decided that it is a law office. One of the characters is a lawyer, kinda, and They said the back offices of their place is like where they exist. And it's this ramshackle, broken up place with like moldering books and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's like, it looks terrible, but it's home, right? And it's a safe place that they can go to and propagate. And I thought that was really fun and they really enjoyed that. But we spent a fair bit of time then cleaning up the crew sheet to make sure that they had all of the stuff that they needed to do to have as a crew, and also kind of setting up the location. And that took a good amount of time. That was like an hour and a half of the time. That wasn't like part of the main story, but it was really fun, right? Like and I think it's fun to do that kind of stuff. Like them thinking about the place that they're living and they're building it's really cool. They then learned, so then it was about the job. I was like, okay, let's get to the job, right? And the job is they need to acquire the war chest of the red sashes so that they can make sure that they can suck the money out of the red sashes so they can't hire as much. And that will reduce their ability to take over in Crow's Foot, right? That's kind of the thing. I had luckily done a little bit, and I felt, I could tell it was off. I could tell it was off from the rest of the game when I already had a location ready to go. And I'd already had these details. But by having that stuff, I think it did make the whole game richer. So I don't think, the idea that like you shouldn't prep anything and you should just improvise this stuff. I'm like, well, the place would have been a lot less interesting. First of all, I did improvise a lot of the specifics, but the place would have been a lot less interesting if I hadn't had that. It just meant that there were moments of exposition. There were moments of me talking about what the Deathlands distillery was like. you know? So I created this situation. I think it was very useful to create this situation of there's 2 different locations and the stuff is going to be moving from one location to the other. And that gave them options. Do they want to hit it at the old place, hit it at the new place, or hit it on the way, right? There are lots of different ways that they could approach this. And they said, let's go get it before they move it, right? We know that they're going to move it from the Deathlands Distillery and they're going to move it to the Theater of the Mind. We don't want to wait till we know that it's going to be heavily guarded on the way. We don't know what direction they're going to go. And we know that they're going to be expecting somebody to try to get it. So we're not going to do it then. Let's try to hit it right before, right? Which brings up really cool options for how this goes bad. Like the crew that's going to come get it suddenly shows up, right? So they thought about their plan. They did a bunch of rolls to kind of get information about it. They learned a lot more about what was happening. And then they actually started to get into the place and looked around and they saw, okay, it's a 3-story building. There's like a hanging gantry office thing. It's in the office thing. There's only one way in on this like rickety walkway that leads to this like big metal scaffolding system that leads down to the distillery equipment. The distillery equipment is sending down horrible shit into these vats below that is distilling soul stuff to create dirty electroplasm back when they were refining it from the land rather than going out and getting it from the Leviathans, which I thought was fun. The kind of crew they picked are shadows. The crew are shadows. In fact, why don't we take a look at the characters? So, well, I'll tell you what. So first off, we're going to create a new sheet. Today is the 9th. So our crews are the Gray Enigmas. There are 6 of them. Andreas Rat Templeton, a Lurk, Apprentice Shadow. He likes luxury. Salia is his info broker, is his ally. Darmot is a blue cloak that is his. Adrian Storm Shadow Keel is played by Brian, is a whisper. Background comes from the underworld, is drawn to the occult. Satira is a demon ally that he has. And Flint, the spirit trafficker, is his enemy. It was pretty funny because he could tell like how things were going to go. And I said like, you know, he was calling spirits and stuff. And I was like, you can channel this stuff. But if you do, like, you're pretty sure that the spirit traffickers will hear about it. And he's like, I'm not doing that because I know it's going to be that jackass Flint that shows up, right? So Chance Fingers Barrow is played by Jerry. He's a leech, an academic. He collects human fingers and hangs around his neck. Jewel is his blood dealer that he likes. And Eckert is a corpse thief that he doesn't like. Moreland the Kingmaker, played by Jay, he's a spider, a bourgeois. He has an obligation to the local orphanage. Jaren, a blue coat archivist, is his ally. And Salia, the info broker, is his enemy. So we have an ally and enemy here. That's pretty cool. Nishan Lex Adele is played by Juliet. They are a slide, an academic. They seek oblivion through drugs. There was a lot of fun drug rolls that happened in this last one. Brill, their drug dealer, is their ally, and Bazos Baz is their lamp black. Fix this so I don't get 1,000 comments about it. Their lamp black leader is an enemy. So that was kind of interesting. And that made sense that like she wasn't there, right? The player wasn't there. The character wasn't there because I don't negotiate with that jackass. Porto, half off Hightower. Joe is a cutter. He's like the true, just the muscle of the group. Background is labor. He likes to go to the fighting pits. Sawtooth is a physiker who's helped him before, and Mercy is a cold kill who is his enemy. They are shadows. This whole faction thing was something we spent a fair bit of time with. I don't really know how it comes into play. The +1 with the Lamp of Blacks. Hey, look, I got the name right there. -2 with the Dimmer Sisters. I brought in the Dimmer Sisters because I thought they're cool and creepy, and they're kind of like a cult, and I like cult things. +1 with the Crows, right? So they're like, okay, the Crows are around there. -2 with the Red Sashes, which is getting worse every time. And +1 with the Crowsfoot Citizenry, right? So one of the players is the scribe who has been keeping track of information about the group and put it in this form fillable sheet. So we've got some good, some good stuff going on here that we're able to capture, which is great. So that's the group. So they're in the distillery right now. They're going to go on the job, and what are some of the interesting things? Oh, and then they have these spooky themes. This stuff really helped, right? The costly successes and devilish bargains. I think I made some lists of this last time. That helped a lot. I rolled a lot on these lists to try to add some of the more fantasy flavor of the adventure to things. So that worked out, using that worked out well. They met one of the characters' mother came as a goat, got called, and she's creepy and weird, and yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff. So they're in the, let's open up this new tab. I'll go to our 9th. So the strong start. They are in the Deathlands. They're in the Deathlands distillery, right? They've already reconnoitered the place. They already know what's going on and where things are going. But now it's time to change the circumstances. I want to keep, one of the things I want to keep, instead of scenes, because we don't know what the scenes are going to be, this one we could make as challenges. The bad things, right? And one of the bad things is that Red Sash regulars could come to the distillery. Did they roll an engagement roll yet? No, they have not, right? And the engagement roll, that's something I need to figure out. We did not do an engagement roll yet, and I think I need to do that. And that tells you right up front like how good this whole operation is, right? It gives a general swing of like, is that the fortune roll? That's not the fortune roll. The fortune roll is when I roll, when a GM rolls just for, to kind of see how something's going to go. But I need to roll an engagement roll. And we roll that during the game, right? I shouldn't roll that now, right? I should roll that because, all this stuff is like we roll when the game itself is going to occur, and that tells us how things are going to go. But it starts the encounter. By encounter, I presume you mean like the scene. Do the players know what the engagement roll result is? Do they know like, wow, things are about to go bad? They do know what it is. Okay, cool. Planning an engagement. All right, so they've got their plan. I mean, I don't know that it fits perfectly into these 6 approaches, but I think, they know that they're going to do it. So the engagement roll. Okay, once the players choose a plan and provide its details, the DM cuts to the action. Describe the scene as the crew starts the operation and encounters their first obstacle. How is that established? The way the GM describes the starting situation can have a huge impact on how simple or troublesome the operation turns out to be. Rather than expecting a GM to simply get it right each time, we use a dice roll. This is called an engagement roll. Fortune roll starting with 1d for sheer luck. Modify the dice pool for any major advantages or disadvantages that apply. So major advantages or disadvantages. Is the operation particularly bold or daring? I wouldn't go that far. Is it bold or daring? I mean, stealing the war chest is kind of daring. I'd probably give them the benefit of the doubt and say, sure. Is it overly complex? No. Go in, get the stuff, get out. Does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest? It doesn't the vulnerability is all their money's in one place. So I think the argument could be yes. Is the target strongest against this approach, or do they have particular defense or special preparations? No. So that's pretty solid, right? Can any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight for this operation? Probably not, because they don't really have any enemies or rivals interfering with the operation. Probably not. Are there any other elements you might want to consider? Maybe lower tier target will give you +1 die. Maybe higher tier will give you plus, blah, 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 blah. So I think it seems like, the very first thing we're going to do, right? The strong start is engagement roll. And it sounds like it's like a +2 die roll, right? It's +1 for luck. Maybe it's 3. Is it a 3 die roll? And is that too much? Because it seems like, is it bold or daring? Sure. So they start off with 1 die for sheer luck. Bold or daring? Yes, because they're going for it. Does it expose their vulnerability? Yes, because they're getting all their money in one place, right? But nothing else. So it feels like it's a 3 die roll. And then it's about obstacles, right? You're in a controlled position when the action starts. You're in a risky position when the action starts. You're in a desperate position when the action starts, right? So what could those be, right? And really, I guess when I think about the kind of prep that I need to do, it's mostly about just understanding the situation in the world, right? I'm not worried about planning what's going to happen. I'm just thinking about what the situation is, right? And what are some of the details? I wouldn't mind having a strong start, because I think that you want to have like, what are those first challenges? What's the first thing that's going to come up, right? But maybe instead of scenes, we're going to talk about the situation, right? And the situation is the war chest is kept up on the 3rd floor of the distillery in a hanging office, and an office hanging from a gantry. Maybe the office is part of a ship, decommissioned ship. So who's guarding it? There's one red sash noble guarding the war chest with 2 hired thugs nearby. They're not allowed in the office because they don't ever want to give those thugs access to it. There are 2 red sash nobles and a dozen cut. That's probably not a dozen. 8 in the lower areas of the distillery, watching for trouble. Right? 6 red sash nobles, including, and we have an NPC. There's a dude, Whisper, right? I don't have a card for Whisper. Sad. It's probably my other sheet here. Willow, right? I could grab him. Stick him in my NPCs. So, Willow are on the way to collect the war chest and bring it to the Theater of the Mind, right? They're coming to get it. Is there any other situations? There's toxic sludge drips from the old distillery equipment on the first floor. The gantry above the distillery is rusted, creaky, and old. Is it possible that the Dimmer sisters are interested in grabbing up this war chest too? Who would they have sent? Let's take a look at the Dimmer sisters here, right? I guess the Dimmer sisters are used as a example a lot of times. That's not handy. Come on. Let's look at factions here. I like crazy, I don't want everybody to just be like the street thug, right? We want some kind of interesting people here. And I think the Dimmer sisters could potentially bring some interesting, right? They're occult people, right? Occult reputation, Dimmer sisters. They have a fine old manor house in the grounds, as well as an ancient temple ruin and subterranean canal beneath. That's pretty cool. I like ancient temple ruin. Apothecaries and witches in their service. There is no single leader. The sisters, the true names are not known. Rosalind's servant, patient, loyal, arcane, deals with contacts outside. Irilyn, sparkcraft, tinkerer, lawyer, and enigmatic, obsessive. Who's that? There seems to be missing a description there. Notable assets, private electroplasmic generator, lightning barriers, and spirit containment vessels. Many spirits bound to service. I think they might send some spirits, right? We don't know how many sisters there are. So I think the Dimmer sisters sent a witch. Who might they have sent? Is it possible? Let's take a look at the crew and see what allies or enemies might make So Flint is a spirit trafficker. Flint could be working for the Dimmer sisters. Satara could be involved, but probably not. Jewel could be the blood dealer, the ally. Probably more interesting to bring in a rival or enemy than it is to bring in an ally. So I think like a couple things. I think Mercy we can replace. So Mercy, the cold killer, is hired by the Red Sashes as part of the escort team. I think that's good. And I think Flint is working for the Dimmer sisters. Do I have a Dimmer sisters page? I do. To steal the war chest themselves. Flint probably has a number of bound shadows, right? The heist is going to go sideways fast. That's the hope, right? It's no fun if it just happens. So I think having a third party that's getting in there to steal it is good. Are the crows involved in anything, right? Are the crows trying to get involved here? Is that too many? So we now have our heroes. The Lamp Blacks our heroes are working for the Lamp Blacks. I call them heroes, right? Our crew is Lamp Black. They're going directly against the Red Sashes. The crows have kind of the largest contingent, right? So maybe the crows, is there somebody from the crows? Let's see if there's, we can look at Bell, right? So Bell is the second in command. So we can have Bell, second in command of the crows, plans to overtake the procession of the war chest from the red sashes with an overwhelming force. So now we have 4 groups that are going after the package, right? Maybe, possibly, right? It's a lot of complicated. So now we've got the red sashes have it. The Dimmer sisters sent Flint with a bunch of bound spirits to go get it. The Lampblacks sent our heroes to go get it. And the crows plan to just grab it along the way and say, like, that's our tribute. You know, we've decided that you're paying tribute to us. They're thinking like, hey, we could use that money too. That is a pretty, that's it might be too much. I mean, I could just have it on hand, right? I can decide not to do it if I don't want to. Are there any other important bits of this situation? The reason why I'm kind of defining the situation is as we do these rolls, it will determine like how hard or easy something is. And so complications. We could have the red sash escorts arrive early. Complications number 2. These could be like good or bad, right? We'll call these bad complications. Red sashes, something explodes. They're just complications. Something explodes in the distillery. One of Flint's shadows breaks free. What other things could happen? The gantry can collapse. Something crawls out of the toxic sludge. I think 10 of these are probably good, right? I think if I have, I was just talking about the value of a list of 10, right? And I think having 10 complications is a really, feels handy. A spirit possesses someone. What about like something from the outside calls its due, right? Like somebody one of the characters made a bargain with something from the outside, and that bargain is coming due right now. And you're like, seriously, I'm in the middle of a heist, and now is when you want me to do this thing for you? And it's like, yep, you owe me a soul, right? Or something like that. That could happen. The blue corrupt, what are they called? What are the cops? What are the cops called? Blue coats, right? Corrupt blue coats show up, right? Oh, the last 3 are always the real killers. What else? I hate to do like well, we could. So the war chest in the gantry is a ruse. The actual war chest is kept elsewhere in the distillery. The complication would be the war chest is huge, right? And heavy. What else? One last one. Something old awakens in the distillery, right? There was something trapped here. The distillery used something here and it trapped. Oh, this could be right out of the keep, right? Like a bunch of their local thugs are like, hey, we found this old crazy Iron Maiden buried under the rock here. We thought we'd drag out. Oh, God, we opened it up and a giant hand came and ripped the guy's jaw off. Right. So, yeah, we could have, something old something old awaken in the keep. I am going to take a quick break. I will be back in just a couple of minutes and we will finish up our Blades in the Dark prep. So hang tight. Be right back. All right. I am back. So anyway, I catch a Witchlight prep yesterday. Yes, my Witchlight prep, my session 0 Witchlight prep thing will be available on Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon on YouTube, Tuesday morning. So for those of you who are familiar with Blades, do you feel like the prep that I am doing now is over? Am I over prepping? Am I prepping in the wrong direction? Is this stuff useful? It feels useful to me, but again, I've only had like one real session, and even that was abbreviated. So I'm curious if does this make sense? Does it the kind of stuff that I'm working on? The idea that I'm sort of prepping complications, and understand like I hang on to all this stuff with a loose grip anyway. Like nothing I write down is solid until it happens at the game anyway. do I throw it away? So I guess a good question for myself would be, how much did I prep last time? And and was it too much? And I think it helped, right? Like I used what I had. So the encounters with the red sashes, that worked, kind of getting my head around what was going on, that worked. Like I did one sentence about the theater of the mind, and we're not going there. We're not using it. And that's, like I didn't do any prep, right? I mean, very little, right? And NPCs, I didn't use a lot of these, right? We got Brace, right? Brace Kesserin. I think we got to bring Brace Kesserin back in. I got to put him down in the NPCs. Limpy, right? Whoops. How did I get that? Why is it? It's copying and pasting the wrong thing. There we go. So I don't need any locations because the only location that I've got is the red sash. But I'll I can grab all three of these, right, and just stick them right into here. But the academy, they're probably not going to the academy, so I probably don't need it. And theater of the mind, maybe it comes back in, maybe it doesn't. So I guess I'm going to improvise the strong start, right? Like, because we're going to do that engagement roll, we're going to see what happens, and the engagement roll is going to determine what kind of things happen. I've got these potential complications that could occur. I know what the situation is. That's really useful. I think that comes out a little over, but rather have too much and not enough. If it helps you, how can it be over prepping? Good question. With Blades, I prepped more learning about the factions in the world. Yeah, read more of the book. I think it's interesting how much you change the 8 steps template or how much you put into each section for Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is just a very different kind of game. So if I were writing the 8 steps around Blades in the Dark, it would definitely be different. But I think some of it, like NPCs and locations, I don't need treasure, right? I don't need monsters, right? Those get pulled out. But you still need NPCs. I don't know what, I don't really need the scratch pad. So we just have a session notes, right? Secrets are still useful, I think. I don't know, so what are some secrets? I don't know that I need like the full 10 secrets. The Dimmer sisters deal heavily in the occult. No one knows how many. The Dimmer sisters deal with their intermediary, whose name is Rosalind. Rosalind Catclaw. Give her a fun name. What else could we learn? The Deathlands was built atop an old ruin that channeled energy from the souls of the dead. The distillery sits atop ancient catacombs that predate Duskfall. Why not, right? What else? Any other interesting things that they would learn about? The Dimmer sisters hope to get a hold in Crow's Foot based on the current instability. I mean, so what else do I feel like I need, right? I'm having fun kind of coming up with secrets. The secrets are good bits of lore. Cut to the action, right? I don't think I have too much trouble with that, right? I think we can. I think cutting the boring stuff is fine. I might need to think about what their downtime activity is, since that might happen during the next play session. Yes, so the downtime could happen this session. I don't know. I don't know what kind of prep a DM is expected to do. I think the downtime, we're all just going to sit and talk about it. I think it will be similar to how we handled the crew and some of the other stuff, because a bunch of us will have the books, and I think we can just talk about, I don't think I'm going to prep it. I think I'm just going to say like, okay, it's time for downtime. Let's see what we can do. And then we'll all kind of learn about what the book has to offer. I think my plan, my loose plan, and I've talked to my players about this and they're kind of on board, is we're going to run this heist. We're going to do downtime. I'm kind of hoping that one heist will lead to the next. Like maybe the results of this one will lead to another new heist, maybe. And then we'll do like one more heist and then maybe one more downtime and a little bit of closure and probably call it done, right? So kind of 2 heists, 1 or 2 sets of downtime, kind of have some fun and then call it a day. So like 3 or 4 sessions total is my plan. The whole plan with this was for us to get a taste of what it's like playing Blades in the Dark. And I think after 4 or 5 total sessions, I think we'll have a good feeling for that. And then after that, we're going to run Numenera, and I feel more confident. Maybe falsely so. I feel more confident about running Numenera. I just want to find out what I'm going to run, right? Am I going to run a module? Am I going to run, our own thing, kind of a mix of different things? I want to make life as easy as possible for myself. There's some cool hardcover adventures that they've got that I might try to do. So we're going to play with that. Are there any other secrets? So I want to whip out a few more secrets just for fun, right? What have I got? 6 secrets, 4 more secrets, right? I think I've already got that the Red Sash Fencing Academy is like karate camp for rich kids. I think we know that. How about the Red have strong connections with the Bluecoats and have paid off many of their footmen and investigators. That's not too surprising. Any other... So a complication could be, do the Lamp Blacks plan to just kill the crew and take the money, claiming the whole thing was an independent job by our crew, right? So 2 more. Any other interesting bits with the Lamp Blacks or Boz or anything? The Crows' attack on the Red Sashes happens regardless of the heist. Yeah, do they care? Bouncing around in the trunk. Yeah. Best description. That's sure what it feels like. That's fine. I don't mind. It's a fun ride. Whee. I don't know. That's pretty good. Well, no, come on. I can squeeze 2 more out of my thick skull. Kind of fun ones. How about a Leviathan Hunter just exploded close to shore, sending raw electroplasm into the bay, and drawing hundreds of ghosts into the city. That could be fun. The treasure vault itself is sentient. What if the war chest actually doesn't contain gold at all? And that could be an interesting complication, right? Could add an 11th complication. I wanted to do this anyway. It contains the soul of the former leader of the Crows. That actually might be a secret, right? It contains the Dimmer sisters. That's a pretty good secret, right? What if it doesn't have money at all? So I've got a good handle on the situation. I don't have a handle on the strong start. That's freaking me out. Although in a pinch, a Leviathan Hunter explodes. I've got my situations. That seems pretty good. I've got a handful of complications I can run with. And of course, I'll improvise those. Yeah, sure. Do I feel good? Sure. We're all here to have a good time. I tell you, my players dig it. So they're happy. I'm happy. We're going to run and we're going to see how it goes. And I think we are all set. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me this morning while I get my head around my Blades in the Dark game. If you enjoyed this video, you can help me out by subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter, supporting me directly on Patreon, subscribing to my videos on YouTube, or picking up any of my books. If you enjoyed this video, hang around next week and we will take a look at how today's session went and talk about how we are going to go in the future. So thank you all very much for coming today. Have a great day. And get out there and play a fun RPG. Thank you all very much.